Swift 5K race back in 2022. But we're just not sure. This may be one of those kind of sit and kick kind of races, and when you kind of come off that last turn and go back through the start line into that finish line area, it could be a phenomenal sprint here. But right now, the Gator moving across the line, so you can pick out a team or an individual that you are favoring today, as we appreciate you joining us here on runnerspace.com for today's regional championship races, and as well all the regional action across these 3 weekends, with NXN to come in early December. We'll also be hosting the USATF cross-country championships as well, as that is kind of a cool day for cross-country, trying to qualify a team for the World Championships, which will actually be hosted this year in Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. World champs here on home soil. But I think as we go across, you see a little bit more seriousness as I say that. But I think as the day's gone on, we've kind of built towards these boys' championships. And I think there's an idea of, Michigan, that 6 Mile Track Club hasn't qualified, but you have a consecutive team going for 20 years in a row. They've been here, they've done it. Can they execute again?
Record entries in every region this year. The best of the best from 5 states have arrived at Laverne Gibson. Final moments before we race for an NXR Midwest title.
Feels like the season all comes down to these last few moments. Just before the gun, some kids are going to go home. Some kids are going to go on to Portland.
All that summer training, all those races, all those moments to get to this moment. The 2025 Nike Cross Regional Midwest Boys Championship race.
See some nerves on the start line.
And Laverne Gibson once again host a championship racing on this spectacularly sun-filled Sunday afternoon in Indiana. It's the Nike Cross Regionals Midwest Boys Championship race. As we start them off in this opening shoot, we'll put on the screen for you all the participants in this race, including representing individual teams, representing themselves individually, but on behalf of their teams and their hometowns. Again, the 2 teams that will qualify automatically, that's a pretty easy equation. The individual's a little bit different. It'll be the top 5 that get invitations. However, if any of those top 5 are connected to one of those teams that qualify, a spot opens up, and so that's where finishing 6th, maybe even finishing 7th here could be a way you can punch your ticket to Portland as well.
Yeah, and I think you got to be mindful of that, right? Coaches are going to have their kids run together and try to have good communication across the board, but that doesn't mean that maybe that top runner doesn't know what's happening or what's unfolding. They're looking for that victory, but they're also looking to move on.
Another thing about these championship purpose-driven courses as well is not as narrow in some cases as we see in some of the other courses in the other regions, and so this very gentle kind of squeezing of the field is allowing for everyone to find a little bit of room to run in the early going.
And just on cue, one of our top individuals comes out from the Purple Track Club. Leading early down this hill. It's a bold move, Paul.
Yeah, Kamari Ronfeld is the leader here in the early going. And gets himself a stride or 2 ahead of the others here in the early going. Look at the athletic course tracker as well, as they're gently brought down off that hill And now we'll work their way around to the west side of this course. Again, you can see in that course tracker the switchbacks that occur here. You don't see any part of the course more than once, but right now it is Ron Felt, similar to what we saw by Malachi Shaneher of Eugene, Oregon in the Northwest race last night in Spokane. Aggressive in the early going, but was not able to sustain it.
Yeah, a little bit different. He's coming off, Kornfeld is coming off of a state championship. He's had a great year so far. He's been in this position before. He was 11th last year, but it is early and it is windy. I said it might come down to a kick. Jace Works has been phenomenal on this course before. I don't think this is a little early, and I think he's just trying to get out of trouble here, Paul.
See Beckett Crooks up there as well, bib 3274. As in the early going, some newer faces that maybe weren't talked about at the beginning of the race, but, everyone's still in it, and it's one of those cases where the lead group has not gotten away from the rest of the field. This stays relatively compact as a lead group of runners in the early going, as we'll await them coming through eventually to the mile split. You see them coming up there along the high point of the course right now. So already getting to about a third of the way through the race, Ben, and, for some of these folks that maybe we weren't talking about before the race, the fact that you're in the race against some of this competition through the 1 mile mark's got to bring you confidence as you head to mile 2.
Yeah, confidence and a little bit of fun. It's fun lining up against guys that are talented, right? Like you said, you're bringing in the top talent from around the states, around the Midwest to kind of feel it out and see what happens.
See in center of picture, 25:39, that's Bryce Fuller, the sophomore out of Ohio, their Division III champion. He was 54th in this race last year. We saw it again, comparing it to what we were talking about with that Spokane Northwest Regional yesterday. That winner was 100th a year ago, so experience matters, and being able to put yourself in a position to improve on that second year, what a difference it makes just to have had that championship experience a year ago.
Yeah, and just going through the motions of a cross-country season, a little bit of development. We know in high school that 1 year to the next, you could be such a significantly different athlete from the year before. But that thing that you mentioned, Paul, about experience, that's what really matters in so many of these cases about when do you move, how do you move, what it's like to really be shoulder to shoulder with some of the top guys in the nation. And you can see that nobody's really broken away this, from 1 to 50th or 100th right now. It's just wall-to-wall guys. It is a wider cross-country course, so there is those opportunities to move up, but it does make it harder when you're running, 15-ish pace, 3 minutes through the Ks. It becomes a challenge to move up.
Just keep an eye on that top part of your screen. Still waiting for some of those team results to become official. Those individual unattached athletes obviously not having a bearing on the team race, though they do have to get removed from the results in order to get those team results as well. So that's a little bit fluid right now, and so too is the racing at the front, as Bryce Fuller now has a little bit of a lead over Maxwell Friedrich of the Wildcats, the senior, trying to stay in contact with the leader right now as they continue to race in this sunshine and work their way through the second mile of this 5-kilometer final.
And Paul, I mentioned Bryce Fuller before we got on air here. He won Ohio State meet in the 3A in 14:52. He's had a great season. He's from Fearless or from Ohio Track Club. Great athlete he's only a sophomore.
Well, we had a freshman win the girls' race yesterday in the Northwest, and, we've got a freshman in the collegiate ranks who was the best of the best last year at Nike Cross Nationals, and Jane Hedengren, who is, showing it doesn't have to be waiting until you're junior or senior year, even in the college level, to be one of the best in the country. And certainly she is proving that here on the collegiate scene. But right now, we're racing for a boys' championship in the Midwest, and it remains Bryce Fuller as he goes through some of these undulations as they make that turn back and going east again. They'll have, again, another twist and turn, as you'll see there on that course tractor, but kind of just meandering their way back through. But they will be coming up to the 2 mile shortly, and after it had been for a while a large group in the front, you can start to see them. You know, even though the course is wide, the chase peloton is rather narrow, about 3 wide, as they're beginning to spread out just a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of state champions, a lot of guys who know how to win, all kind of coming together, feeling each other out, and yet we don't really have that breakaway yet. We mentioned this before the race started. There isn't a clear favorite, and we talked about this hill, as you see on the course tracker on elevation profile. This seemed to be kind of that pivotal moment on all of the earlier races we saw today.
Also trying to keep an eye out for Bontrager, who was one of our early favorites. I think he's making a little bit of a move in that chase pack. We'll keep an eye on him. We'll get another split here shortly as they come up and to that 3K mark. Bontrager now up to 4th, Ben.
Yeah, he's running well. We pointed him out earlier in the season from Westview School, running unattached.
Got Philip Supiol is also now emerging. He was another guy we talked about in the beginning on our preview show out of Downers North, the Illinois 3A champion, who was 7th here a year ago, went on to finish in the top 60 at Nike Cross Nationals. Familiar with this course, familiar with the racing style, and again, the race not only for the potential win here, but also just to try to make that top 5 and guarantee yourself a spot at NXN.
And some bragging rights, Paul.
Still got Friedrich in the mix. As the race within the race unfolds, spectators trying to move from one position. This is such a spectator-friendly venue, too, as they can just immediately move maybe 10, 20 meters, and you're ready to catch them about a minute later than you were cheering for them a moment ago. And then for others trying to get to the other side as they're lining up 3-4 deep now. They know this championship race is starting to unfold here. Let's see what happens. Bontrager, you see him 37-15. He's moved up a little bit of pushing and shoving right now. Jack McGovern of the Rock Running Club trying to get himself into the mix. Everyone battling for position and everyone battling to get back within contact of the leader, Fuller.
Yeah, you mentioned Jack McGovern. He was 104th as a freshman at NXN. He's been here. He's done it. He's qualified. He knows what he's doing. He ran 14:52 at his state meet to win it in Missouri.
And you can see from high above now, great shot from the drone as the Gator makes the turn. And Fuller makes the turn, and a full group of, 6, maybe 7 guys there, all within a few strides of the leader. And this is going to be the point you can test. You can see the finish line off in the distance now, but this is setting out to be quite a finish for a Midwest title.
Yeah, you see a little bit of body language on Fuller. You know it hurts. We're coming into that last few minutes of racing. The question is, can he respond as that kind of chase pack queues up behind him? He needs a really good last bit here just to keep himself in this fight and, as you mentioned, in that top 5 to potentially move on. But as a sophomore, he's running with so much guts and so much heart here.
As they make the turn through 4K, less than a kilometer to go now. Bryce Fuller with Supiel. Beckett Crooks of Purple Track Club, then Jack McGovern, Carson Kaiser, and Bontrager still in that group back in 6th.
Yeah, some of the favorites kind of making themselves known now. Fuller doing a great job just holding off that chase pack and responding. We'll see what happens here when he gets kind of this shoulder-to-shoulder battle.
Supiel tested his outside shoulder, but Fuller was able to battle back and retakes the lead. Now Supiel looking on the inside track for home.
And Supiel comes from Illinois, where they only race 3 miles for their championship. So does a 5K kind of put them at odds, though it's only a couple hundred extra meters.
Carson Diermeyer is now also asserting himself here. We haven't talked about him much. Bib 2552, the Missouri Class 4A champion. He was 8th here a year ago, and now he's in 3rd with about 700 meters to go.
And this is what we saw at Nike Town earlier this season, about a month ago. Just a handful of guys coming off this last turn before that long, grueling straightaway that you can see from 500 meters out. And it is going to be an all-out sprint to make yourself to qualify for NXN.
Jack McGovern in the race. Supiel on the inside. Ronfeld trying to stay within contact here. Diermeyer as they come to the start line, and now you see that long, straight spot to the finish, and you got to gauge it carefully because it looks like it's close, and it is not.
You got 5 guys, and it can be heartbreak or heartfelt last few hundred meters here.
Supiel, Diermeyer, and Ronfeld. McGovern back there in 4th, but he is not catching him. Diermeyer on the outside, Supiel on the inside. Supiel a half stride ahead. A battle for the title at Laverne Gibson. A Midwest championship on the line. And Philip Supiel of Downers Grove, Illinois, takes the Midwest title.
Bryce Fuller holding on for 5th, and now we start the agonizing process of adding up the team scores.
I'm going to let the timers do that. What a great finish, as we had 5 guys finishing within 8 seconds of each other, top 3 within 2 seconds of each other, as Supiel, Diermeyer, Ronfeld, McGovern, and Fuller are the ones who get themselves an automatic invitation to Nike Cross National. We'll see if any of these teams that they represent will get them there automatically as part of the team, and that would open the door for someone like Beckett Crooks, who finished in 6th, and Carson Kaiser out of Illinois, who finished in 7th.
And that really helps Downers North and Purple Track Club from Ann Arbor and Downers Grove North, the school names here. But one thing to note here, Paul, is the top 9 all under 15 minutes on a challenging course, and 10th place coming in at 15:01. That is solid running across the board.
So get everybody to the line and through the line. We're still waiting for those team scores to go official. So little Palace intrigue here as we wait for that. And of course, those scores are done dynamically as they remove the unattached athletes from the race results and then rescore all of the teams in order of finish. So sometimes that is cause for a little bit of a delay.
But phenomenal racing up front. Bunch of guys going toe-to-toe, kind of duking it out. But I was super impressed with Bryce Fuller, a young sophomore who ran really well at his state meet, coming out here and putting his name in the mix. and held on. We talked about that, kind of coming up the hill. What will he have left? Though he kind of got swallowed up, he hung tough, stayed super positive down that long, grueling home stretch.
Last few finishers coming across the line. Still waiting for those team scores and results. Again, winning time for Supiel, 14:41.4. And Diermeyer, 14:42.0. Kamari Ronfelt third in 14:43.1. Best team performance at the low stick end of the score was Purple Track Club, as they had Ronfelt in third and Beckett Crooks finishing in sixth.
I think it'll come down to those fourth, fifth athletes on the team side.
All right, the race has concluded, and as we have seen many times over the years at NXR regional events, great close finish as Philip Supiel takes the victory here from Downers Grove, Illinois, and he's at the finish line with Brandon Jones. Brandon?
We are here with Illinois Class 3A state champion. He now has added Nike Midwest Regional champion to his resume, Downers Grove senior Philip Supiel. Philip, talk to us about your race today.
Yeah, coming into it, I knew, some of the hardest competition in the nation, these Midwest guys, really know how to push themselves. So coming in, I knew I wanted to win. I knew I wasn't I wasn't the favorite, but I just really pushed myself to my max limits, and I succeeded in that today, and I'm super blessed and grateful to do that.
Talk to us a little bit about the challenges of this course and how you attack and approach this race. You didn't lead till late, so tell us, what's the best approach on this particular course?
Yeah, it was a little windy out here today, so I knew I didn't want to lead the whole race like someone was doing. So I kind of just kept my positioning. I knew I had one of the strongest kicks in the field, so I really wanted to use that. And, I might not be one of the most aerobic athletes here, but I knew if I hung on, I could definitely get away with a kind of a kicking finish. So that was the goal, and I executed it perfectly.
Well, your team's made an appearance before. We're going to wait on that. We know you're going to Portland, and we'll find out soon if your team's going with you also. Congratulations, Philip.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Brandon. He self-admitted he didn't necessarily think he was the fleetest-footed 5K runner, but he felt like if he could get himself in a position to out-sprint him on that final drive to line, he'd be in a position to win, and win he did.
Yeah, he is a 150, 800-meter runner. He comes in with a good 15, a 4:11, a good mile time, but he's a fast guy. I'm curious to see how he kind of develops over the next year, especially going into track.
As we look at the replay of this race, it was, as we expected in the early going, a relatively tight lead pack. There was certainly some pressing by Bryce Fuller, and he kind of made this an honest race, but he could not shake the kind of talent you would expect to find at Laverne Gibson this type of year. And even though there was a little bit of pushing and shoving at some portion of the race, it ended up coming down to a sprint finish with Supiel, Diermeyer, and Ronfelt 1, 2, and 3, and that would be the order of finish as we congratulate Philip Supiel, who was 59th at NXN last year, 7th at this race last year, but he is now the Illinois state champion and the Midwest regional champion.
Yeah, just great running overall. Stayed anonymous until off that turn and making that long drive for home. And as he mentioned in the himself up, and he knew he could rely on that fast speed that he has coming off the track season.
Being told that our timers are confirming the